Illumination Studios' hit Sing is a rousing animated crowd-pleaser filled with familiar tunes, an inspiring story, and a handful of secrets and Easter eggs just waiting to be discovered. Let's get started. Buster Moon, voiced by Matthew McConaughey, is a down-on-his-luck theater owner looking for a hit show that will keep him from shutting the doors of the Moon Theater for good. Inspiration hits when he decides to hold a singing contest. To get the word out, he asks his elderly assistant, Miss Crawley, to draw up and distribute publicity pamphlets for the event. Watch closely when Miss Crawley's glass eye goes flying through the air. Did you catch it? The Easter egg, not the eye. As the eye rotates, you can see some writing on the backside that reads Made in China. Here's something else you probably didn't know about Miss Crawley. Miss Crawley is actually voiced by a Mr., but not just any Mr., writer and director Garth Jennings. Jennings is no stranger to performing. His IMDb page credits him as an actor in no less than 12 projects, including Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The Fantastic Mr. Fox. More on those connections later. If you're a film history buff, you're going to love this next detail. Eddie, voiced by John C. Reilly, is Buster's best friend. He is a little aimless, having lived off the success of his grandmother's career. His grandmother is Nana Noodleman, a veteran of the very stage Buster now runs. Does Nana look familiar to you? Then you've probably seen Sunset Boulevard. Nana bears a striking resemblance to Norma Desmond, played by the legendary Gloria Swanson. Even her penguin butler seems to be drawn from the inspiration that is Erich von Stroheim, Desmond's butler, but also an old Hollywood fixture in his own right. If movie references are your jam, and we know they are, you're gonna love this next triple feature. There are no less than 3 references to Back to the Future movies in Sing. Did you catch him? When we're first introduced to Johnny, played by Taron Egerton, he's quietly singing in an alley. Did you notice what he was wearing? A leather biker jacket, and he talks to his dad via walkie-talkie, just like Marty McFly in the scene from Back to the Future Part 2, where Marty talks to Doc over a walkie-talkie outside Lion Estates, where he burns the sports almanac. Also, in the scene where the Moon Theater loses power, Buster tries to steal some from the next building. At one point, he walks outside on the ledge with an extension cord. The ledge crumbles under his feet, and after that, when he finally gets his bearings, he gives the cables a good yank, only to realize the lines are too short. This is an unmistakable homage to Doc Brown's climactic scene at the top of the clock tower in the original Back to the Future. Finally, we have Scarlett Johansson, who plays Ash, a rock singer-songwriter who bursts out of her rocker ex-boyfriend's shadow to chase her own fame and glory. Watch her performance at the end of the movie. Before blasting the audience with the first strum of her guitar, she holds her guitar pickup just like Marty McFly in the beginning of Back to the Future. Also, in a wink to the Johnny Be Good scene from Back to the Future, Ash finishes her number in the same pose Marty does, even slowly opening her eyes to see a completely quiet crowd. There's a 2-for-1 reference right there, but there's even more Sing secrets to uncover. Johnny struggles to keep one foot in the show business door while the other is firmly planted in the family business, which just so happens to be crime. Big Daddy, voiced by Peter Serafinowicz, is grooming his young son as the getaway driver for his gang. Take a look at the absurdly small masks that Big Daddy and his mates wear during their robberies. The bunny masks are of a particular rabbit, Snowball from the movie The Secret Life of Pets. Going from one thumper to another. During the big performance at the end of the movie, when Ash's guitar is unplugged, she starts stomping the beat on stage to rally the audience. What's cool is this particular action is based on an actual porcupine behavior. Did you know that porcupines really do stomp their feet as a warning when they're angry or scared? That being said, there's actually something Ash does aside from sing and dance that porcupines can't do. As Ash gets carried away in her performance, her spiky quills start shooting out at the audience. Many fictional porcupines have been given this ability in the past, but that's pretty much where it ends, the land of fiction. Surprisingly, no studies of porcupines or porcupine behavior have ever documented an event where a porcupine would or could even shoot quills. Maybe if a porcupine happens to shake its body hard enough, a few might drop out, but that's about as close as you'll get. While we're on the subject of Ash, there's a scene where she comes home to find her frontman boyfriend Lance rehearsing a duet with another girl named Becky. Of course, there's a more adult undertone to be drawn from the scene trope, and if you listen closely, it's actually alluded to via the song Lance and Becky are singing. The song was written by rocker extraordinaire Jack White, and it's called Love Interruption. This next musical fact is downright eerie. Sing plays like a musical review of hit songs by famous recording artists like George Michael, David Bowie, and Leonard Cohen. Strangely enough, in 2016, when Sing debuted in theaters, these 3 artists took their final bows, passing away that very year. See if you can't pick out their music in the movie. George Michael's Wake Me Up Before You Go Go is Eddie's ringtone for Buster. David Bowie and Queen's Under Pressure is the anthem heard while the singers fix up the Moon Theater, and Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah can be heard in a soulful rendition sung by Mina. Mina, voiced by Tori Kelly, is a shy but sensational young singer looking for the courage to share her gift with the world. Watch the scene where she attempts to ask Buster for another chance. She's so nervous, she looks at her hoof, where she has what she wants to tell Buster written down. This is a funny little flourish on the adage that an elephant never forgets, a fact sensationalized over the years, but that has origins and observations of the species that go back over half a century. Speaking of, here's another reliable old resource. At the end of Buster's casting call, he has all the performers join him on stage in order to make his final decisions. At one point, he considers Richard the water buffalo, but Richard gets so nervous he passes gas, which embarrassingly leads to his being cut. Frustrated, he accidentally stomps on a snail named Ray. Did you hear Ray's cry of pain? That's right, it's our old friend, the stock sound effect known as the Wilhelm scream from the 1951 Distant Drums. Another group of auditioners simply won't take no for an answer. It's a quintet of Japanese red foxes, known as the cuties. Their reluctance is really more of a misunderstanding due to the language barrier. In fact, it's this exact issue that causes them to leave when Buster tries to convince them to stay. Buster reads from a Japanese translation book, but without subtitles, you might not understand why the foxes get so offended. What Buster says translates to "Your routine is horrible, your footwork stinks like feet." Ouch. Another auditioner who lands the gig is Mike the Mouse, voiced by Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane. Mike the Mouse draws heavily on the persona of Frank Sinatra, whom Seth often imitates. Sinatra was known for his short temper, style of dress, and rubbing elbows with members of organized crime families, which are all facets of Mike's character as well. Mike also sings Sinatra's signature song, My Way. Seth's ties to Sinatra go back to his own animated series Family Guy, where he'd often have Frank Sinatra Jr. feature as a guest star. Writer-director Garth Jennings also has a musical hero he wanted to pay tribute to. As an admirer of jazz, Jennings chose to have the song Stout-Hearted Men by Shooby Taylor included in the film. The song is sung by a hippo during the audition scene. After Taylor died in 2003, Jennings found that Taylor's son was a 70-year-old man living just above the poverty line. It was his hope that the check from Universal Pictures for the song's rights would be beneficial to him, and someone else also benefited from a famous song. When Taron Egerton as Johnny sings a cover of Sir Elton John's I'm Still Standing, it's hard not to think of Taron reprising the song in the biopic Rocketman, which came out just 3 years later. Taron met Sir Elton when the musical icon appeared in Kingsman: The Golden Circle. The two struck up a friendship on that set, and Sir Elton took Egerton under his wing, even rallying for Egerton to play him over other Hollywood heavy hitters like Tom Hardy. Take a look at the piano Johnny's playing while practicing with Miss Crawley. Then keep your eyes open in the scene where Buster and Eddie visit Nana. The brand name on the piano reads Lanai and Bedoyle, and it's the same brand Nana keeps on hand in her mansion, which is a fun little Easter egg that could symbolize her undying love for the Moon Theater. The brand itself is not real, but Lanai is a porch or veranda, partially open to outside elements. Perhaps this is a foreshadowing of the fate of the Moon Theater. As for Bedoyle, this could signify Moon, who acts as a bad oil or snake oil salesman to the singing hopefuls, promising them a prize that doesn't exist. Buster is on the run from the cold, hard truth from the word go. In the beginning of the movie, Buster sneaks out of his office in order to avoid the angry stage crew whose checks bounced, as well as a call from the bank. What's interesting, though, is the way he sneaks out through a hole in the wall which is hidden by a poster. Remind you of anyone? How about Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins in the Shawshank Redemption? Andy escaped Shawshank prison through a hole he carved in the wall over decades, which he kept hidden behind a poster. The next time you check out Sing, be sure to keep your eye on the many background animals. They tend to appear several times throughout the movie. Remember that polar bear in the red Hawaiian shirt at Harry's bar? You can see him again in the club when Mike is making his escape from the bears. And the tuxedo-wearing chicken at the fancy restaurant Le Calmar can be spotted near the end, in the group of animals watching the concert on a shop window TV. Remember when I said we'd get back to Garth Jennings' credits later? That time is now. He's connected to 2 other major directors in their own right, through his performance work in Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, both directed by Edgar Wright, and The Fantastic Mr. Fox, directed by Wes Anderson. Well, take a look at the ending credits under the category Additional Voices, and there they are, Wes Anderson and Edgar Wright. It seems Garth Jennings likes to return favors. I hope you liked the video and found some cool new things you hadn't seen before in Sing. Make sure you subscribe to Movie Logic for more daily movie facts, trivia, and Easter eggs.